Good morning. Happy PPI Wednesday. Producer price index was out this morning, sent the markets down, but they have since pretty much gained everything back. Hotter than expected. So, should be interesting day in the markets. Also have the president in China with a bunch of CEOs. They're going to be talking about trade. So trade deals, things like that could also, move the markets. So should be a wild day, but sometimes when you think it's going to be one way, it's the opposite. So we'll see. I'm sizing down my one DTE today, so just going to size down all my positions with when we have the current market that we're in, where we're seeing some big moves in both directions. NVIDIA, Tesla, MU, CoreWeave, AMD, ARM, Circle, TSM in the green. Intel in the green. Everything else pretty much in the red. The bell has rung. I'm going to give it just a minute or two here for the one DTE, see if we get some juice in these options. And sizing down on my one DTE, sizing down all my positions for the time being. Initial move out of the markets is down. Again, sizing down my one DTE from 4 contracts to 2. It was filled on my one DTE, so I'll post that. All right, that's been posted. All right, got my OCO order in on my 1 DTE. Again, I sized down. I mean, you know what happens when you size down, right? You win, right? So you size up, you lose. Size down, you win. Apple with a nice push up. Same with NVIDIA. Producer price index came in hotter than expected. I think I saw someone said on a business channel it's the hottest since 2022, and all because of energy and the oil crisis that's going on with the war, and so obviously there's different effects on that. Ryan, sizing down from 4 contracts to 2, so just cutting it in half. Still use same profit targets. I've been kind of just brainstorming TLC, maybe uh, changing it up a little bit just to evolve with the markets. So I'm gonna keep kind of thinking about that, and maybe change some profit targets to cut risk. Could be one option. Getting our second bar here. Man, Apple. Not sure what got into Apple here, but don't see a push up like that very often. So we've got the president in China with a bunch of CEOs, and so could be a wild day depending on I don't know what time it is there and when they're going to be meeting, and they're going to be talking trade deals. So who knows? There could be some non-scheduled news that comes out of that and moves markets. About 20-point move down here in the S&P from the open. Expect a move of 31, pretty similar to the last several days. Not seeing any big volume bars. MSTR is getting close, but not going to get there. To see if Apple can keep this market from really coming down. So far, staying strong. Hopefully, we don't get too much news from the China thing. I think it's nighttime over there, so maybe that'll prevent big moves. Watching Apple to see if it'll come down a little bit more. If it can come down a little bit more, it might be a good entry and use the line in the sand right here. Today it's the 2DTE. I'm looking at the 297.5 calls, 297.5 calls in Apple. See if I can get filled. Oh, got filled. 243. Filled at 243 on the 297.5 calls. Close half at 270. PLTR coming down through lows. Apple to rip through highs of day. S&P down about 25 points from the open and still falling, dropping like it's hot. Dropping like it's hot. We talk about the expected move all the time, and it's getting close to the downward side expected move in the first 16 minutes. But like the last 2 days, it eventually finished within the expected move, even though you had, like yesterday, like 60 plus points down and then 60 points up. So it has big moves, but it, still finishing because the expected move is what, where is it when market closes? Is it within that expected move? What it does in between that time doesn't matter when it comes to the expected move. So right now, S&P is down at the lower expected move in the first 16 minutes. Apple coming right down to my line in the sand. It's pretty much right where I got in. Whatever it was, it may just be whatever caused Apple to spike up. Just maybe too much for the Apple to overcome here with the indices coming down. I'm going to hold it just a little bit longer here, see if it pops back up. Wouldn't surprise me to see it come down to yesterday's high and then bounce. Wow. Yeah. Price really coming down. Yeah. Well below the expected move already. It took 16 minutes to get to the downside expected move. Fun times. Let's see what Apple does on this next bar. If it looks like it wants to get weak again, stay weak, and I'll just get out. All right, closing Apple. Just too much for it. Filled at 202. Yeah, sizing down definitely. I think the way to go right now. Got a mighty 90 in PLTR. Also mighty 90 in SMCI if you want a smaller stock. See if PLTR can make another extension lower. Then I might get long here on this mighty 90. Looking at the 133 calls in PLTR for the mighty 90 long. See if it'll come down and get me at 215. Meta through highs of day. Yeah, looks like it left without me. PLTR popping up already. I'll let it sit there. Maybe it'll come back down. I mean, it can stay weak. Seen it bounce out of a lot of these stocks. Are any of them staying weak? Goog with a nice push up. Wow. PLTR is kind of staying weak, actually. It's not bouncing with the rest of the market. Amazon up through highs, Meta through highs. One green bar out of PLTR on that mighty 90. So it's not looking good for me to enter there now. I'm going to go ahead and cancel my position. Cancel my working order. Missed it by about 3 or 4 pennies. Well, I was just looking at Apple, like I mentioned. It might come down to previous day high, which it has done, and now bouncing a little bit. Meta pushing up. VIX coming down. It's down to lows of day. PLTR coming back down, but I'm not gonna enter on that mighty 90 now. SMCI through lows. Goog staying strong. S&P bouncing. You just never know. Be back in 1 minute. Apple dipped below previous day high and popped right back up. Nvidia, Meta, Tesla, Apple, all green. Amazon, Netflix, Microsoft, coin red. PLTR coming down to the lows of day. Something's gotten into Meta. She's a pushing. PLTR back down to the lows. A little choppy. Kind of getting a little bit chop happening here. Apple's still coming down. It may come all the way down to pre-market highs. No big volume bars. Seems like big volume bars are just rare nowadays. I used to get them all the time, like every day. Got some stocks pushing up, some coming down. Would love a mighty 90 short, but not seeing any. Maybe the market wants to give us a day of chop. AMD coming down, MU coming down. Amazon through highs of day. Netflix trying to push up to highs of day. So definitely have some weakness and some strong stocks. VIX coming up a little bit. Not seeing any good setups here, though. Apple's pretty much holding right at yesterday's highs. Dow down 186, Nasdaq down 23, S&P down 7. Pretty choppy at the moment, which I'm fine with when it comes to our 1 DTE. 1 DTE's still in the red, though. Apple now starting to bounce off yesterday's highs. Thought it might. That's where I had an aggressive entry because it was so strong on that push up, but it doesn't surprise me that it came down to yesterday's highs. So it's like if you're not aggressive, you could miss it. I talk about that quite a bit. Sometimes it pays to be aggressive, sometimes it doesn't. Tesla with a nice push up to highs. Tesla's real close to getting a big volume bar. PLTR coming down through lows. Yeah, that Tesla bar. I would say that's as big as the first. Tesla pulling back here a little bit. I might get long Tesla on this volume runner. Again, 2 DTE, and again, I'm sizing down everything. Looking at the 445 calls. See if I can fill it at 645. Filled at 645 in Tesla. Close half at 7.10. $7.10. Feels good to be in a volume runner. Yeah, PLTR just bleeding lower. Just hasn't really been able to get any traction to the upside after earnings. I could have probably got short PLTR and a downside continuation. It wasn't bouncing. Probably would have been a good play, obviously. Netflix up to highs of day. Wow, yeah, it's quite the push down in PLTR. Tesla coming right down to my line in the sand. On a volume runner, it's always right there at the bottom of that big price bar that corresponds with the volume bar that's big. Man, Goog just straight up. PLTR with another mighty 90 long, but man, it's so weak. S&P, Nasdaq still trying to. Well, Nasdaq's green now. I'd, I'd love for it just to chop between yesterday's close and yesterday's open. Let me put that on this board right here. I'll show you something real quick here. So when you look at this chart on the S&P, yesterday's close is the red here. Yesterday's open. So that's 9 points. So if you were to look at just this, you think, man, price only moved 9 points yesterday. And it's definitely stayed within the expected move. You don't see that it went down 60 and came up back up 60, 70. Wild, wild, wild. All right, getting a little bounce here now in the S&P. Tesla, let's go. Did something come out on financial juice? Nope. Just bouncing, I guess. Arm pushing up. A lot of stocks pushing up. I need Tesla through highs of day. It's trying. Hot inflation report. Who cares? Iran war. Who cares? Filled is 710 in Tesla. What a nice bounce. Close another Tesla at 775. Arm with a big volume bar. Price moved right up to yesterday's high, and now it's coming back down. Tesla through highs of day. Another little push up in Tesla should hit my next profit target. PLTR through lows, just getting slapped. Filled at 790 in Tesla. I've only got one Tesla left because I went smaller than normal. Closed my last Tesla at 860. See if it'll come up and get me. One DTE's in the green just a little bit. Tesla's still pushing. See, you size down, you win. And fill it at 865 to close out my Tesla. I'll take it. All right, folks. It's 9:31 Central, so I'm going to go ahead and jump off and start focusing on Delta Neutral and hoping that we can see consolidation. Again, I'm going to size down. Going to be very cautious when it comes to entering. So, everybody have a great day. Talk to you soon.